segment.
You got the wrong guy. I'm the dude, man.
Welcome to another edition of Around the Turnbuckle. My name's the Big Albowski. His name is Professor Keith, as always. And tonight, from Atlanta, GA, we got James Bandy II live. How you doing, James?
I'm good, but I'm actually in Indiana now. I actually moved to Indiana back in February.
Did you really?
Yeah, but of course, I always forever love Atlanta. It's always going to be home no matter what.
Are you still billed from Atlanta, GA?
Always.
Well, then we'll go with that. All right, cool. So we're off and running, guys. Hey, anybody watching tonight, thanks for tuning in. Send us your comments, send us your questions while we interview James. He'll be glad to answer them. Keep it clean. I will filter them. I will not send us any nasty stuff. I want to have nice, friendly conversations about the man. He is a professional wrestler who wrestles all over the country. He just wrestled last night in Tennessee, and the man's back home again. He must be tired, so we'll cut him a break. Keith, what do you think?
Oh, I think so. God knows I'm tired. I work every Sunday, and then I decided to exercise after, and I'm sitting here now going, probably wasn't smart.
We will start with my first question to you, buddy, is where once upon a time young James was watching wrestling, and how did he get hooked into this business? Where did that passion come from, and when did that turn into I'm going to go try this and I'm going to go do this?
It's actually kind of a story. The more and more I think about it, because I kind of started watching wrestling when I was probably about 8 years old, and I would just watch SmackDown in my living room and just kind of just wrestle pillows and stuff because I was a young child. So, and I just kind of followed it through then. And then as a kid, I was always like, I think I want to be a professional wrestler. But as you get older, you kind of start finding things. So that's when I kind of started playing basketball. And I kind of got into basketball throughout my entire, my entire like high school and part of my college career. And after a while, so I just kind of like faded away from wrestling until about 2013 when I started watching. I think I watched the Raw after WrestleMania 29. And I kind of just watched it, and I was like, just thinking to myself, I was like, I used to love this stuff, man. And fast forward to 2014, I moved to California, and I tested the waters at Santino Brothers out in California. And at that point, I was just like, maybe this isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. Maybe it's not it. And fast forward to 2 years later, I was in film school, kind of back into wrestling heavy. And I'm in film school, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, this film stuff is cool, but I still want to do something to where I can be in front of the camera. I still want to be an athlete. And I just like, let me just see what I can do. So when I found WWA 4 down in Atlanta, I kind of met AR Fox, and I just kind of started out I just asked him if I can, like film for him and, do graphics for him and stuff like that, just so I can just continue to get better at the film stuff that I was doing, but also use it in a form of that I enjoyed doing it. And then just kind of just being down there and just being in that environment, I kind of just started to just want to just be more engulfed into it. And that's when I kind of got the money up and was able to pay, and then started training and kind of just never looked back ever since.
Joe checks in. He's a friend of the show. Hey, fellas, what's shaking? Joe, how you doing tonight, bud?
Here we go.
Chrissy Cyphers, what's up, family? Hi, Chrissy.
And Chrissy.
Philip McDevitt, 2M1L. 2M1L is our new YouTube and is our new Facebook moniker that we're under, Phil. So if anybody's looking for us for Around the Turnbuckle, we are on Around the Turnbuckle, but 2M1L is our Facebook page where you can find tonight's show. And my wife is sharing it out as much as possible right now for everybody to join in with us. Keith, your first question for the man.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously you look very polished from the little bit that I've seen. One of the things that really stands out to me, and I want to talk about for some of our fans that may hear this and they don't know what I'm talking about, is you work like a big guy. You're a big guy. How tall are you?
6'2".
6'2". So I mean 6'2", big guy, very athletic. I saw you work in a match with Chris Storm. Did I have that right? Yeah, I think I have that right. Corey, I knew it was something with a C, and I knew I was saying it wrong.
Corey Storm.
I apologize, Corey Storm. I didn't mean to get your name wrong. Much respect. And one of the things that struck me is a lot of big guys now would come out there and they would say to themselves, okay, Corey's smaller. He can do all these kicks. He can do all this stuff. I have to go try to match him. And you didn't do that. You came out. You had your gimmick. You knew what you were doing. You blocked a lot of the kicks and stuff. And when you had your moment, you kicked his head off. You slowed the match down. It became about he has to come to you, not you come to him. And I see so many big guys out there now, and big guys in AEW, sometimes in WWE even, that don't seem to understand that, like, that's really more impactful and that's better than if you're trying to show, like, oh, I'm a big guy and I can jump off the top rope or anything like that.
Right. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think one of the main things I've learned in wrestling altogether is just slow down.
A friend of yours is saying hi.
JT.
I knew he'd attract him with an interview show.
But yeah, like it's just like slowing down, and I feel when it is slowed down, I feel like everybody can kind of just really just get engulfed into what's going on and really understand what's going on.
Yeah, you gotta tell that story in there, and I mean you got great facials with that. One of the moves that impressed the crap out of me was when Corey jumped off the top rope and you caught him and you got him with a restaurant quality spine buster.
Yes.
And again, this is the point that I keep trying to make to people is like, if you just have one really big spot like that, that becomes the whoa. And you absorb it. Like you say, you've got to slow down, because if you're going into, I'm going to super kick him, then he's going to get up, and I'm going to drop a tombstone on him, and he's going to get up again. No, by the third or fourth move, I've lost the plot. It's so exposed at that point, and nothing matters. Your super kick doesn't matter because you didn't let me enjoy it.
It's called the Bandy Buster. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Phil. You know, so I mean, I'm right there with you. You know, it's more about what you do and picking your moment than it is going 110 miles an hour. It's something I try to explain to Alan's son all the time, and it just falls on deaf ears.
Yeah. And there's, you know, and another thing too about you, you said you've been doing this now for 3 years, that you are already in that pattern where you are, you know your size, you're wearing guys down. You're not trying to do, like Keith said, 150 things. You're slowing it down. Like you said, you're also like, you can see that, like, whoever's been working with you, whoever's training you, that you can tell that you put the time in. There are some guys that are at where you're at, have been doing this for 3 years, and don't look like that. Do you know what I mean?
I definitely appreciate that. That means a lot. So I do. I appreciate that. I really do try to work my tail off, man. Just to.
It shows you have work ethic, which I respect. JT Funk, your boy, checks in with, if I can recall correctly, you mentioned Randy Orton was someone that got you into wrestling. Was it about, or what was it about Orton that made you fall in love with wrestling?
Um, well, I think what the thing about Randy Orton is just everything he does is just smooth and it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I just that's literally all I want to do. I just want to be smooth in all that I do. And anytime somebody watches a match, whether you're a wrestling fan, a non-wrestling fan, or just walking in, or just so happen to just turn the TV on and I'm there, like everything just makes sense. And it's like you can catch on quickly, and you can just be engulfed into everything that's going on, as well as just like from Randy Orton. From just a character standpoint, I just thought just the whole Viper, the Legend Killer, any iteration of Randy Orton has just worked. I like the young Randy Orton when he was like cocky and brash, and the Legend Killer, like that. To me, I'm like, that was me when I was in high school. Like that's how I felt when I was in high school. But now, like Randy Orton, he's a little bit more calculated. Does and that's again, it's just like that's how I feel today. Everything I do is calculated, and I want you to feel every piece of everything that is going on in this ring during this match.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that. You so who exactly did you go to a school? Like who trained you?
I was trained by AR Fox down in Atlanta.
And in Atlanta.
At WWA 4.
Okay, yeah. Because some of the matches I found when I was digging for some of your matches to check them out was the WWA 4 stuff.
Yeah.
You did. You did a cage match. You had a title match with the guy's name's escaping me. Keith? What did you look at? What did you watch?
I think I got as far as the two you sent me. I
Yeah, which
got
was Corey.
Even this
Which was
week. Yeah.
Corey. And let me see if I can dig the other. If I send them to you, then I can easily look at right here and say. So you watched Corey Storm.
Yeah.
And you watched O'Shea Edwards.
Right.
So you've been at it for 3 years now. Who would you say that you work with the best? Who works with you the best? Who would you wrestle like forever if you could?
I think one of my favorite people to wrestle is Lee Johnson. Um, I was I was he came into the WWA 4 probably in 2018, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
His second match. I was like his second match, and for him to have for that to be his second match, and for him to be as good as he was at that moment, and then looking at him now, pretty much showing out on AEW and things like that. He's always been one of my favorite people to wrestle because it's just every time we wrestled, it was just instant chemistry. Regardless, it's just always just something just fun. We always seem to just create something just crazy and dope, and always have a great story to tell. So he's definitely one of my favorite opponents that I've wrestled.
Keith?
So you were trained in Georgia. You're billed from Georgia, and Georgia has a great wrestling history. Georgia Championship Wrestling, Crockett ran there. Obviously, WCW based out of CNN Center. At different points in time, certainly by the end they kind of shed most of that Southern wrestling style. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I think sometimes our fan base being more in the Northeast, they're more familiar with WWE and the way WWE does things. Can you talk about the Southern style a little bit? Is that a big influence for you? It sounds like it kind of is. Being in that area, you'd kind of have to soak it up, right?
I personally wouldn't necessarily say that it's a Southern style. It's For me, it was just more so of just how I was like learn to wrestle. And it was just like one of those things where at the end of the day, it's just like the people who were paying to watch are the most important people.
Right.
Everything has to sense for them. You want to be able to connect with them so they can continue to come back. Now, when it comes, like, I'm not a huge fan, like, with the whole heel face deal. Like, I don't really buy into, that concept that much.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to just two opponents. But other than this other style, like when it comes to like the hokey stuff, I've never. It's just all kind of just been there, and it's like it has its crowd.
What I fashion you as a heel though, the matches I've seen, you're a heel, right?
Right.
And you enjoy that. I mean, some guys do, some guys don't.
I think me, I honestly like I love doing both. So it just depends on what it calls for. Like,
Yeah.
if you want me to be, if I go somewhere and they want me to be healed, then I'm just like, all right, cool. The most, evil person I can probably be. And my only goal is to make people feel extremely uncomfortable with the amount of pain that I'm about to cause my opponent. As a baby face, I just kind of, it's the same thing, except you're just going to enjoy the fact that it's causing all this pain and harm.
Right.
Kind of how I go at it. And I think I've kind of gotten to a point where I don't necessarily have to change too much depending on which side of the fence I'm on.
Right. Right. So, how many different? It was just you said you were wrestling last night in Tennessee. How many different organizations have you wrestled for? Roundabout. I'm sure. I don't know if you've kept track of all that or not.
I wrestled for quite a few. I really don't. Now, when it comes to like the promotions, I've wrestled for a ton of like awesome promotions. But I pay attention more so of like the location. I've wrestled a few places in North Carolina, a few places in Florida, Alabama, a few places in Tennessee, Indiana, New York. So
traveled.
Yeah, so I've always tried to just, find places. I'm just like, hey, just getting in the car and just hitting the road and just like traveling, just networking and meeting people. And since moving up to the Midwest, now it's almost like a restart to where I can kind of just like start from the ground up again and just getting in the car and just traveling to different promotions and things like that and just networking and just trying to just get my name out there more than where I am at the moment.
So that's awesome. I have a MO for asking that question because I had a feeling you're well traveled. I just wanted to hear you say it first before I ask. You have any really cool road stories?
Honestly, not many, and I say that simply because I tend to travel by myself.
Oh,
but there was one time I was actually it wasn't like a crazy one, but it was really just like it was an interesting moment where me and Lee were traveling back from a show in North Carolina, and we got caught in a snowstorm, and it was just crazy because we literally were just driving. Everything was kind of cool, all that stuff. And then by the time we hit South Carolina, we just started seeing the snow just get thicker and thicker and thicker. Like, the snow was kind of high. And I'm like, I don't know. So we just kind of had to stop for a second, kind of just like relax. And then once we got back on the road, it cleared up a little bit. But 9 times out of 10, I'm generally by myself, though, when I travel. So, and I do that for me, and that's just like my own personal, because I just feel safer that way. I don't have to worry about, being responsible for anybody else while I'm on the road.
So who did you wrestle? You said you wrestled pre-show. You said you wrestled last night. Who did you wrestle?
Who did I wrestle? It was a tag team match. It was me and a guy named DJ versus the LOB from OVW.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what we wrestled in a tag team against them. It was Isaiah and Cash, I believe. Yeah,
Isaiah and Cash. Yeah. And that match was in Tennessee.
Yeah, so I think they did a little house show run in Tennessee. It was pretty fun though. Like, I mean, Like I said, I got whiskey poured all over me because I was a baby face. But I got a beer afterwards, so it was all good.
You got whiskey poured all over you, he said, Keith. What do you think?
Oh, those dastardly Tennesseans.
Yeah, it was a Tennessee whiskey because it would have been funnier if it was Kentucky whiskey, which is a whole different thing. So you are wrestling next October 30th in Centerville, Tennessee, right? For Revive Pro Wrestling. Do you know who your opponent is? Because I saw something about a casket match.
Yeah, his name is, he's the champion. He's Uncle Biff. He's the Revive Pro Heavyweight Champion, and that's my goal is to be the one to put him in the casket so I can win my first championship in my independent wrestling career.
Now, my boy, the professor there, is an awful big Undertaker fan, so casket matches is his thing. Keith?
Yeah, I've seen quite a few of them.
Um,
so are you guys just doing that because Halloween is the next day, or is there a little bit more of a story to it than that? Like, have you guys had some personal issues building up to it, or just taking advantage of the season?
Yeah, of course, it's always personal when it comes to me, especially when championships are involved. So that always makes it personal. So it's just one of those things where at the end of the day, when things kind of just have to come down to, sometimes somebody just has to go on the ground at the end of the day. And it being Halloween, everything kind of just, it lined up perfectly. So that's kind of how that one came about. So yeah, everything kind of just lined up perfectly for that one.
TJ Spitter, our boy, who also has his own podcast called Spit with Spitter on Wednesday, says, yeah, casket match. He's also an Undertaker fan. Chrissy Cypher says, so if I wanted to be a wrestler, would it be lucrative for me?
It can be. I mean, I feel like it's anything that you have a passion for. Anything you do can be lucrative if you put in the work and the effort for it.
I'll tell you one thing, Chrissy is very goal oriented. She's also very passionate about everything she does, and she's been working out. I'm friends with her on Facebook, and she's also has a podcast with our group called Ciphered Knowledge with Chrissy, which is on right after our show tonight at 8. But every Facebook post I see, she works out almost every day. She's been very, especially lately, and she's been very, she's getting in pretty damn good shape. So I could see her in the ring, Keith. She's tough.
She's tough, but I mean, I think as James will attest, those first few years or so, it's hard, and you got to want this because you're taking any booking you can get. You're going to small towns. The payoffs are small. Maybe it covers your gas. Maybe it doesn't. I mean, stop me if I'm saying anything that's not your experience, but that's kind of what I've always heard from a lot of the big guys, and even some of the guys we interview is like, yeah, it can really be a grind, and if you don't love this, you're not going to last.
Like one thing about it, I always compare professional wrestling to music, because at the end of the day, starting out, you're just kind of just trying to get what you can get. In music, you're just trying to get your music to the right ears for the person to hear. In wrestling, you're just you're hustling, trying to get into the right eyes. So, but once that opportunity comes, you want to be ready because you prepare for that moment. And once that call comes,
old age may win. Thanks for the love. She's not as old as she says she is. I don't believe it for a second. But okay. It's never too late. And to your point, James, podcasting too. Podcasting is, me and Keith would love to be heard by the right, or saw by the right person, and get a bigger platform for guys like yourself to come on and get yourself out there more.
Right. No, absolutely. And I've become a huge fan of podcasts lately too. Like I literally listen to podcasts every day.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of had thoughts of like doing my own podcast and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where it's just like I feel like we live in an age of pretty much media and content. So
Yeah.
if you can really make a nice living off of, you know, like all of this stuff. So trust me, like I'm all for any type of media, creativity, all that stuff. I support anybody who just goes after being content creators.
This show was created from a chat that we would do. Keith and I and our friends would do, just talking wrestling. And then the pandemic hit, and I realized that, you know, why not try this on Facebook and YouTube and everywhere else, Twitch or whatever, and see what we can do. And that led to us meeting some local talent, and that it led to us making some more friends. And then we met this guy that you know named JT Funk, who ended up booking the rest of our year with guests every Sunday night.
Nice.
So now we're at a point now where we're about 6 months in or so, right, Keith?
Yeah, thereabouts.
And we do a show every Saturday and every Sunday. And we were interviewing somebody on every show, but then this past couple weeks we switched it to where we only interview wrestlers on Sundays, and on Saturdays we talk about wrestling. All kinds of stuff. We talk about today's stuff. We talk about past stuff. Last night, Keith was hosting, and we talked about Yokozuna, the legacy of Yokozuna, because the WWE Network just released a best of Yokozuna that they put together, which was really cool. Hoping to, you know, reintroduce him to some of the younger fans. And we also talked about AEW. I mean, you know, what's going on in AEW. So we like to mix it up a little bit. We talked about the WWE draft as well, but I prefer talking to guys like yourself because it's fun to talk to somebody who does this,
right,
and just get that passion that comes out. It's awesome. It's awesome talking to you guys about this because the current product really has lately pissed me and Keith off. And so, and right.
It's been pissing me off far longer than it's been pissing you off. Because for a while there, you're kind of like the Homer Simpson thing with the big pig, and it's like it's just a little airborne. It's still good. It's still good.
Yes.
Okay, they did a bad finish there, but it's still good. They can get it back.
I admit it. It took me a while. Keith's been pissed off a lot longer than me, but it did take me a while. And now doing this show, talking to guys like yourself, has reignited this love for wrestling that I've had for 40 years.
That's positive. That's good.
And it's awesome. It's awesome. And I love talking to you guys. Do you watch the current product at all? How do you feel about the current product?
I mean, I always watch wrestling, so what good, bad, different, I still watch. You know, whether it's just like, you know, like I don't like a particular thing as a fan or anything like that. I mean, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I just but I still watch for enjoyment because I like to see, you know, just because I just enjoy it. I just love it. Yeah. So I still watch WWE all the time, really. I don't get a chance to watch it on TV. Simply because, you know, working or, you know, things like that. But I definitely watch the pay-per-views, and I'll go back and watch everything on the network and things like that.
Yeah, that's where I get my wrestling from, the network, really. I mean, we used to get together and watch pay-per-views together live, and now I watch it maybe 2 or 3 days later when I get a chance kind of thing. It's not like I don't have that, oh my God, I got to see this pay-per-view tonight. Right. Feeling anymore, and it's sad. It makes me sad. I mean, Keith, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Fine. I still like the pay-per-views though because I guess because I like to see the culmination of, you know, like
yeah.
So I still watch the pay-per-view. I still get excited for the pay-per-views. It's around this time I start getting ready for the Royal Rumble though myself because that's my
I've always loved the Rumble.
mind is. My mind is like, all right, let's get these remaining months out the way so we can get back to January. Let's get back to the Rumble so we can really, really have some fun.
So we do a segment about halfway through at the 30-minute mark. Usually we do a segment where we ask you this simple question. If you could take on anybody alive or dead in the world of wrestling, Japan, WWE, WCW, ECW, whoever's on your mind, who would that be and why? And then when you're done, me and Keith will answer that question also.
Randy Orton.
How'd I guess?
Yeah.
uh,
We get a lot of Randy Orton. We get a lot of Eddie Guerrero.
Eddie
too.
Guerrero.
Eddie Guerrero really has a huge influence on so many people.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely, of course, I think I would love to wrestle with Eddie. Eddie was different. He was built different in his wrestling business, man. If I truly had to pick the greatest of all time, it would probably have to be Eddie Guerrero, because I feel he hit every single check mark that you could throw out there with
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You know, he meets every check mark. But I just feel like with Randy Orton, I think simply because I'm such a fan of him and how I kind of modeled my style of wrestling after him, I just feel like it'll be a fun, that'll be my dream WrestleMania feud, to just kind of just do that and then beat him with an RKO. That's the finish I would pitch for.
Beat him with his own hold.
Keith, who would be your opponent for James?
You know, I loved what I saw. Like I said, I got a little bit of a Mr. Hughes vibe out of the Corey Storm match. I don't know if that was intentional or just something that happened. Like, I think it was the way you dressed, the way you carried yourself. There was kind of that Curtis Hughes vibe to you that I liked. Boy, good match for him. I know we talked about you and JT getting in there on the pre-show, which I thought would be really good because I thought JT being able to bump for you, being able to have that speed would match up really well with what we talked about, that big man style where you kind of have that fast and wily baby face kind of bumping into you and letting you just knock him on his ass. So, I mean, JT would be a great matchup.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Yeah. Especially now that I'm talking all this stuff and I know he's listening. So now,
he's listening. He's watching.
Sure the wheels are turning for him right now too.
Oh yeah, and you hear that, Mr. Funk? The professor wants to see JT Funk versus the franchise James Bandy ASAP. I would probably have to dig and find somebody that would compliment you. And the guy that keeps popping in my head from watching your matches earlier today is somebody like a Leo Rush. I think that you versus Leo Rush would be a contrast of styles kind of thing where he'd be running around and trying to do his thing and you'd be slowing his ass down with your thing. And I think that would work.
No, that would definitely be fun. I would welcome that one with open arms. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Ron Simmons too, I could see in Ron Simmons' prime, especially in that like WCW time around.
Well, wouldn't Ron Simmons be more like his style? Wouldn't it be like more like a brawl kind of thing?
It would be, but sometimes when you get like two bulls of the woods together, you know, that have that similar kind of style like that, you get magic sometimes. I think you could have something there too.
It's possible. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Ron Simmons is a funny guy.
I met him
when I was in Pennsylvania. Actually, we were at PPW, and it was him and Raven and another guy, and we ended up driving them back to their hotel. So I was in the back seat with Ron, just talking to him, picking his brain, and he's probably he and Teddy Long are probably like the two funniest people I've met. Old school era of wrestling, and They are absolutely hilarious. They remind me of like you're just two uncles at the barbecue that you just like talk to and they'll just keep you laughing for hours.
That's awesome.
That is. Did
Have
Raven
you-
tell you how big his IQ was? I've heard some Raven stories from people that have met Raven. Like the first thing out of Scotty's mouth is always like, "Hey, I have like 126 IQ. Could have been in Mensa."
But he did tell us about the ECW days though,
Oh,
and
that's good.
his mind for the psychology of wrestling is pretty crazy. So
Oh, absolutely.
picking his brain in regards to that.
So, were there any other big names like that you've met over time that you were able to pick their brains as well?
Yes, yes and no. Like it's been plenty of people that I've met, but I have like the opportunity to sit down and just like I really want to. But um, like I've gone to like some of the Evolve shows, and I was able to talk to some of the guys that are up there in NXT, whether it was Malcolm Bivens or um, let's so many people. Like I think I met Gargano and Champa,
Cool.
or so just kind of being in Regal when he would do his seminars and things like that. Just kind of
I love Regal stuff. I'm such a fan of Regal.
Yes.
his brain for this business is definitely when he's speaking. You definitely just want to keep your ears open and your mouth closed and just soak
Yeah.
up that he's saying.
Hi, Mother.
Ellen's mom. Hi, Colleen.
She does check in from time to time. All right. So, where do you see yourself going? Where do you see yourself in a year or maybe 3 years from now? Is the goal, has the goal always been NXT, AEW, Ring of Honor, that kind of thing?
Yeah, the goal has always been WWE, but in between those, like I would love to make pit stops with Impact or MLW as well. Those are definitely some opportunities that I would gladly take.
Sure.
Send it to me, most definitely. And just like I'm very goal oriented too, and I know MLW and Impact are on my list of goals to kind of reach in the next 2 years or so.
That's awesome. I mean, you got to have goals and you just keep doing what you're doing. You just keep working your craft, man, because 3 years in, man, you are, if you're not there now, because I'm no expert,
Mhm.
if you're not there now, you're getting there.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I mean it's getting the right opportunities. I mean, more power to Court. Everything he's done with Resurrect and MLW is truly inspiring to me. You know, that he managed to build that back first with the podcast network, and then he started running shows again. And now he's one of those companies that, you want to go there and you want to work there because you're going to get noticed.
Right.
It's going to put you on the radar of the next level. So I mean, more power to him. I hope he just continues to expand and continues to keep doing it because it's good for everybody to have more shows out there and to have more high profile shows out there so you guys can make the money you deserve.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so so that's the goal. You're heading that way. What would you say to somebody who is been at it a year or 2, 3 years maybe, and has that feeling of, man, they're on kind of on the fence of like, well, I don't know if I'm ever going to make it there. Or what kind of advice would you give a fellow wrestler like yourself who doesn't have that drive that you have to light that fire?
I would have to just tell them like, just keep going. Anything that is worth having isn't necessarily going to be easy. And another thing is just like, don't get caught up in what everyone around you is doing and just focus on what it is that you're doing.
Right.
And know that you're doing what you believe you need to do to get to where you want to go. You can't judge your success off of others because everybody's journey is different. And one thing I've always learned from, high school and college sports is just that it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. If you want to, if you have a goal of where you want to finish, then your path may take you, three different ways, but as long as you get to that end goal, that's the most important part. It's just kind of just seeing it through and just being able to keep that mindset of I want to do this, so I'm going to do it. But that's my biggest thing is just don't judge your success off of others, and just keep what you're doing.
Amen. That was excellent. So, um, how do you feel? We talked a lot about MLW and Impact and NXT and WWE. How do you feel about AEW, where they're at right now?
I think AEW is cool. I've always been a believer in that competition is always healthy for, and so whether you want to see it as competition, um, I think it'll just the fact that there's another company of that magnitude, right alongside WWE is always gonna give give fans great wrestling. It's gonna give them options. That there's just like you have different sports. Like if you don't like baseball, but you like basketball, then you can watch basketball. You know what I'm saying? If you like football, but if you like all sports, you can watch all of them. It gives you options. You can pick and choose whatever one you like. And then for wrestlers, it just opens up doors for more opportunities to truly make a living. And I think that's the truest blessing out of all of it is just um, being able to truly make a living doing what you love. And
Now, pre-show, you mentioned you're an Atlanta Falcons fan, which is true to the heart of my son, who's also an Atlanta Falcons fan.
good kid. Yeah.
Is it is it safe to say you're also an Atlanta Braves fan who played tonight in Game 7 against the Houston? Or no, it's the Tampa. Wait, I'm mixed up.
I think
Wow.
Clearly.
Yeah, the Atlanta Braves play the Dodgers in Game 7 tonight to go to the World Series. Are you a Braves fan?
I represent every team in Atlanta. When it comes to I'm not a huge baseball fan.
Yeah.
Be happy if just to hear the Braves winning.
There you go.
That's all I need. If I just hear, my city's team winning, that's all I care about.
Well, Game 7's tonight at 8, and if they win, they are the National League champions.
Well, trust me, I will be over here rooting for them, and that's all that matters. I just want them to win.
So, I hope I'm saying this right. Kari Hudson is chiming in with what keeps you motivated.
The main thing that keeps me motivated is just not wanting to be, for one, not wanting to be stagnant in life, as well as just kind of just wanting to create the life that I want to live. I think that's what keeps me motivated, and just not wanting to just be and what I deem as mediocre, living a mediocre life. Not saying I need to have like all these, super fancy things, but my goal in life is always to be able to live comfortably and be happy, be able to just do things with my future wife and family and future family, just be able to do things and not having to think twice about it.
Are you engaged, sir? Is that what you just said?
No, I'm just general like future that
I got you.
Having, think about it. And the one thing motivated and hungry to just succeed in all that I do.
Keith, you've been awful quiet, man.
Sometimes I just get in the mode of I enjoy what I'm hearing, and I mean I'm hearing a lot of positive, inspirational stuff. Why step on it?
Well, I don't know if you wanted to, ask him a question. I feel like I've been talking way too much.
Oh, well, shut up then. Let the man speak.
I let him speak when he talked. I'm just saying, like, I get to a point where I'm like, man, I've been talking an awful lot. I want Keith to talk now.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is better to have more places to work and things like that. One of the things that I worry about, because I look at AEW and there's good, there's bad, there's indifferent. I worry that sometimes they lean a little too hard into sort of being a little bit of WWE light, and they don't always kind of blaze that trail. And I think that's what somebody really needs to do to be different right now. Like, I think wrestling would really serve itself to be more about the sport aspect. I mean, you got to still keep the characters and things. Like, we were talking earlier about heel and babyface. I heard an interview on YouTube with Jerry Lawler from a show that was local in Memphis a while ago, and he talked about the whole reason baby faces and heels came about was because in other sports you have a home team that you can root for, and you show up, you pay to see your home team, and then the other visiting team is by default the bad guys because they're playing your team, so you want to boo them. And face and heel is kind of like that for wrestling because there isn't really a home team or a hometown advantage for the most part. So you got to kind of create that issue in that instance to be like, I want to pay to watch my guy beat that other, son of a bitch that came in here from wherever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that always kind of concerns me when I hear people like Cody Rhodes as an executive with the company talking about, do we really need baby faces and heels anymore? And to me, it's like, I think we do, but I think we need them in the aspect of what you were talking about of, I know who I am, the audience knows who I am. If I want to be one or the other, I just kind of have to tweak something within what I'm doing, but I'm still doing what I'm doing. I think that's the way to go. Would you agree with that?
No, definitely. And the fact that that was Jerry Lawler's analogy, with the whole sports team, it makes sense because the way I look at wrestling now, I think instead of you cheering for like the home team, you really just, I think the audience really just gravitates to who they like.
Mhm.
And if I had to, my analogy with sports is like, I'm a huge LeBron James fan, so it's just like you're always going to have your fans of LeBron. You're going to have your fans of Kobe. You're going to have your fans of Jordan, of Kevin Durant. So it's like you're going to have those fans of everybody. And I think that still brings a story and dynamic. So when you get to see those two clash, like just imagine if we ever got to see, LeBron James and Michael Jordan go one-on-one.
Man,
It's like, or if that, or just, just things like that. The fact that it's almost like the fact that we never got to see LeBron James versus Kobe Bryant in an NBA Finals.
right.
It's almost equivalent to never being able to see The Rock versus Shawn Michaels in a match. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you have these larger than life athletes, which to me equates to larger than life characters, and they're not necessarily per se like bad guys, but who. But that one right there, that's my guy. Like that's the guy. Like, ride with him through it all. And if he loses, I'm gonna be upset because I don't want the other person to win. So I kind of feel like that's where professional wrestling has like kind of shifted into that aspect when it comes to the dynamic of heels versus baby faces.
I couldn't agree with you more. I know Keith really is gung ho about the heel versus babyface thing, but the new generation, like people like my son, they, like you said, they take a guy and they don't care if he's heel or babyface. They like that guy, they like him. Some people love MJF in AEW.
Yeah, fan.
Right.
I beat him.
And did you?
Yeah.
Some people like him, even though he's like the biggest heel in their company,
Right.
and he's the biggest jerk on the mic. Some people just love tuning in just to watch him and will buy his T-shirt, and he don't give a damn. I mean, that he's taking that character to, I don't give a damn if you buy my T-shirt or not. I'm going to come out here because I'm the damn best, and it's pretty cool. But like you said, I think the heel versus babyface is good to an extent. That model is to an extent, and Vince McMahon will always stick to that. You're never going to see a heel versus heel main event at WrestleMania, right?
Right.
But I think that nowadays, like look at the Fiend, for example. I think the Fiend is supposed to be this evil, Bray Wyatt is supposed to be this evil, creepy, character who we're supposed to boo because he just attacks people randomly that he wants to attack.
They're turning him now.
And he's the biggest for a while. And he's the biggest draw they have right now.
And it's honestly because he's cool and he's different.
Undertaker had the same thing, where it was just he got so big and everybody liked him so much that it was just like you couldn't get people to boo him anymore.
Nope.
So like regardless of what side, they can literally play whatever side of the fence that they want. You're still gonna enjoy them. You're still gonna cheer for them, simply because you just like them. And I personally think that's okay.
I agree.
I do too. I just think that, especially for guys that are starting out, that are maybe not as well known, you still need that dynamic. Yeah. And I think you still need that overall guy. Like you were talking about Raven and the ECW days. And when Raven came in, Paul Heyman was going around and saying to people after the Sandman situation where Sandman was being the biggest scumbag out there and people were cheering for him, and Paul was taking that to be like, heels and baby faces are dead. It's whoever, whatever, they're just going to cheer and do what they want to do. And then Raven was kind of like challenge accepted and came in and was the biggest heel they had and had like 2 or 3 different feuds revolving around him because he was such a douchebag.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing when it comes to kind of getting to that level to why, the heel babyface dynamic is still kind of important is because when you first starting out, like you really don't know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that's the most difficult and most challenging part, is really just finding yourself in the world of professional wrestling. And I feel like once you find yourself in the world of professional wrestling, then everything else is just easy. And that's when you get to the point where it doesn't matter if people boo or cheer me. Like, I know who I am. So it's like, and they know I know who I am. And now it's just, I can literally do whatever I want. And people are going to react to any and everything that I do.
So on October 30th, you're in a casket match in Centerville, Tennessee. If anybody is seeing this in the Tennessee area, in the Centerville area, if you want to check my boy out, in a casket match against their champion. And what was his name?
Uncle Biff.
Uncle Biff. For Revive Pro Wrestling, Centerville, Tennessee, October 30th. What's the bell time there?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. bell time.
Doors opening. Generally.
Doors open at 6?
Mm-hmm.
Doors open at 6. Check him out. If you want to reach him on Facebook, he's at Franchise James Bandy II. Do you have any other handles you might want to mention, or anything else going on you want to mention?
Everything is generally on my social media. I'm generally on Twitter, which is at James Bandy II. So James Bandy, and then the 2 I's for the second. And my Instagram is just Bandy II. So just Bandy II. And you can all follow me and hit me up on there. And I'm always on there, so just tweeting about basketball.
Is that correct for Twitter?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, you want to get a hold of my man. You want to check out his matches. Keith, when I was looking for matches for him, I found them rather easily. I typed in James Bandy II wrestling, and I got a bunch of matches. So if you want to see my man's matches, man, go on YouTube. Subscribe to whoever's got his matches out. You have your own YouTube, James?
Yes. It's actually called Bandy TV. If you go to YouTube and you type in Bandy TV, it'll have. I'm going to start being more active on that channel soon. Like I said, with all of COVID and everything, I haven't had much time to get a lot of footage. So, being that things are kind of rubbing back up, I should start uploading more matches and stuff on own personal YouTube and things like that. Being that,
So yeah, you want to check my man out because he does wrestle all over the country. So I mean, obviously, unless you keep track of where he's going to be, and unless you live in that area, it's hard, But on YouTube, man, you can check out all his matches as all his recent matches, all his matches from a year ago, 2 years ago. It's all good stuff. Check him out. James, you've been a delight, man. Keith and I wish you the best of luck. I hope that all your dreams come true. And I think that if from what we've seen, the tools you have the talent. You just like you advised everybody else. When I asked you that question of what would you tell a wrestler who thinks he might not, have it, just keep plugging away. I'm going to tell you the same thing. Just keep plugging away because I can see you being in MLW, being in Impact, being in AEW even.
Definitely. I do truly appreciate that. 100%.
And as far as WWE goes, I know every pro wrestler has that in them. And hell yeah. I mean, you shoot for the stars. Every football player wants to be in the NFL. Every basketball player wants to be in the NBA. Of course, man, you got to stay goal oriented. Me and Keith, started this podcast for fun. And now, my goal is for this thing to get picked up by Spotify. So, we're dreaming, man. We got to do what we got to do.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm rooting for you. Like I said, I root for all content creators.
Yeah, and we support everybody that's on our show. We support 100%. Whenever you share stuff, I already friended you on Facebook. So whenever you share stuff, I will share it on our Around the Turnbuckle or on our 2ML1 media groups. Spitting with Spitter. We have a bunch of shows now. For those of you who don't know, we have a new YouTube channel called 2M1L Media, which stands for 2 Men, 1 Lady Media. That has all the old episodes of Around the Turnbuckle, all the old episodes of Ciphered Knowledge with Chrissy, and all the old episodes of Spitting with Spitter. And there's going to be more shows. We're starting a podcast network where we pretty much have a show every night. All right. Keith and I are on Saturdays at 6 and Sundays at 6. On Sundays at 8 o'clock, it's Ciphered Knowledge with Chrissy. And tonight she's giving away 2 bottles of wine, Keith. She's going to have a wine expert on, and she's going to do a contest where you can win a bottle of wine, and she's going to do another contest where you can win another bottle of wine on the show from a wine enthusiast name. I believe his name is Haywood Zapata. I hope I'm saying that right. So tune in tonight for Ciphered Knowledge with Chrissy. Wednesday, our boy, and if you haven't seen this guy, James, Spitting with Spitter on Wednesdays at 8. Look that up on Facebook, Spitting with Spitter, because he has interviewed Hell's Kitchen season winners. He interviewed Horace Jenkins from the Detroit Pistons the other day. He's getting big name guests. So we are glad to have him as part of our group. And he started off just like us, where he was just, he's a rap artist first and foremost. So he was interviewing local rap artists. We're wrestling enthusiasts. We started interviewing local wrestlers. So now we're branching out and we're interviewing wrestlers from all over the country. And I hope someday Keith and I are interviewing WWE legends or something. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Well, we might be with some of the talent we're getting in here. We're talking to future legends, I think.
Oh, that'd be great. Dude, if that happened for you, man, we'd be the happiest people in the world because we were like, hey, he was on our show once.
I definitely appreciate you guys having me on, man. I love doing podcasts. I love just being able to just talk and just talk about wrestling, talk about whatever, and just really just have fun and help you guys be a part of whatever you guys are trying to create. And wishing you guys nothing but the best. And
thank you.
We appreciate that.
We also have a new sports show on Tuesdays down at the bottom of the screen there called Home Team Sports on Tuesdays at 6, where we talk football, we talk NBA, we talk Major League Baseball, we talk everything that's going on in sports right at the moment, with myself, with Prince Shango, with Anthony Joseph, and TJ Spitter was on our first episode, but next week, this Tuesday, my cousin Philip is joining us. You saw him comment earlier, Philip. He will be joining us on Home Team Sports, where we will talk about week 6 that just happened in the NFL, the bullshit, the travesty that happened in Philadelphia. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Atlanta Falcons getting out of the losing column, 1-5. We'll talk about that. So, Keith, you got any parting gifts for my man who will be wrestling October 30th in a casket match in Centerville, Tennessee?
Yeah, so I want to thank you for coming on the show. Like you said, thank you for the support. And good luck out there on Friday. You know, I'm going to post some pictures of you as the new Revive Pro Wrestling Champion. Get it done.
Yes, I'm following him on YouTube. So when that match pops up, I want to see that casket match.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. You got any parting words? Go ahead.
Yeah, just so you have a soundbite for the team sports show. And
go ahead.
I do believe that the Lakers will repeat next year.
Ooh.
Ring number 5.
Actually, you know what's funny? One of the subjects we're talking about on Tuesday is who's your NBA champion next year?
The LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Los Angeles Lakers.
I'm going to go with Golden State, but that's me. TJ.
I definitely, it's going to be a fun NBA season. I'm just a huge LeBron fan, so I just want LeBron to win.
Well, man, feel my pain. I'm a Sixers fan, all right? I like all things Philadelphia.
I think Doc coming to Philadelphia is a turn in the right direction.
Okay, James Bandy's word is no longer credible, says Mr. Spitter.
It's going to be the second pro wrestler he starts a feud with.
Well, no, what it is once you start talking NBA, man, all of a sudden he starts commenting, right?
Oh man, I love basketball. Basketball.
James Brown, he's signing off. Okay.
That was my first love. So, trust me, I always talk basketball all day, every day.
Well, that's his love too. He's a coach. Mr. Spitter's a basketball coach, basketball enthusiast, and that's why I had him on, because I don't know as much about the NBA as he does. My son knows a lot about it though too, so I might have him on as my NBA expert, because my true love is football and Major League Baseball. LeBron was your first love, he says. Oh my God, he's always starting to Keith. I'm trying to wrap the show up and he starts shit.
Well, that's what he does.
Yeah, I know. He should have tuned in earlier and asked the man some questions. Now he's going all NBA and shit on me. You know what I mean?
Point out your first love was a guy, which,
that's not right. That's not right either. Okay, let's get out of here while we're still. Hey, James, hang out for just a minute. All right. I want to say goodbye to everybody. Don't go away. Tune in tonight. For Ciphered Knowledge with Chrissy, where she's interviewing a wine enthusiast and giving away
free alcohol.
What? She's giving away free alcohol.
Basically, all you have to say is just say free alcohol and people are going to show up.
8:00 tonight. Check her out on Facebook, Ciphered Knowledge with Chrissy, with Haywood Zapata, and they are giving away 2 bottles of wine tonight. So tune in and check her out. And Keith, you got any parting gifts for my man before we say goodbye?
I think I already did that. Are you okay today? Did you take your meds? Did you take the memory pills?
I'm tired, man. I'm tired. TJ says, one last comment. Much love, peace and blessings, and best of luck in your career, James.
Thank you.
And we echo the same, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart of being on Around the Turnbuckle. And guys, we'll see you next time on Around the Turnbuckle. By the way, speaking of Around the Turnbuckle, Keith, one last thing.
Oh, that's right. We really need to point that out, don't we?
This Saturday, there is no Around the Turnbuckle, okay? This Saturday. So the next time we're with you is next Sunday right here at 6 o'clock. There is no Around the Turnbuckle this Saturday because Keith and I will be on location in Marysville to cover CCW No, I'm sorry. We'll be in
Yeah, I was going to
Quakertown.
say, you just went back in time.
We'll be in Quakertown for Triple WA, live in Quakertown on the 24th. So no show on Saturday. Sorry about all that, but we will be here next week with a new guest next week. James, thanks for being with us, man.
Thank you.
We wish you the best of luck. Don't go anywhere, and we'll see the rest of you next week on Around the Turnbuckle. Also, and I'll see you guys Tuesday on Home Team Sports. Go Birds.